Welcome back to Genuine Love Podcast.
Welcome back, everybody.
We're with our husbands today.
Yay.
We have Philip, my husband.
That's me.
And we have Jess, my husband.
That's me.
There you go.
All right. And
Good
we're
introductions.
doing an episode on marriage because we're obviously marriage experts.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Absolutely.
Yep.
As you'll soon come to find
as
out.
you'll soon come to find out, we have so much knowledge and wisdom from our 6 to 7 years of marriage.
Yep. Y'all have been married for 6 years?
Yeah.
6
7 years in July. I do
So
know our
6 years.
anniversary.
So
Yeah,
6
6
and a half.
Exactly 6.5.
Today,
We're like
right?
a little kid who wants to round up our age to the next year.
Yeah.
Our dating
Our
anniversary.
dating
Was a
anniversary.
few days ago.
Hey.
Yeah, it
Aw.
was like
Nice.
December 4th.
Do you do
9
like
years.
something for your dating?
No.
Yeah, like all kinds of jewelry and stuff.
Really?
I'm a really good husband.
But we can start that next year if you want.
Totally.
Because I always text him on our dating anniversary, and he's always like, oh, okay.
I don't think we've ever remembered it on the actual day. It's always been like, oh, our dating anniversary was a few days ago or a month ago or whatever.
We always get our
December.
engagement anniversary mixed up.
Yeah.
It's either the 30th of July or the 31st.
I think it's the 30th.
For the 29th.
No, I think it's the 30th.
Yeah. Well, there you go.
Obviously.
That's a big
You're right,
question
you
mark,
did.
yeah.
I would not put money on that.
I
Did
don't
we actually
even
get
know what
engaged?
what
Ours
is ours?
October 26th.
Oh, October
Aw.
26th. Okay.
Hey,
I didn't even
I'll
know.
never forget.
Oh,
Oh,
so sweet.
What a
He's trying to earn
sweetheart.
brownie points. Over
yeah.
here.
What a sweetheart.
Okay, well, we are going to be answering some questions that you guys sent in. So the first question is, who pursued who first?
Who pursued who first?
You did, hands down.
Okay, but when we're
Get it,
saying, but what does pursue mean? You know what I
Like,
mean?
went after
Like-
them to try to date them,
So what
right?
pursue looks like in this relationship is borderline stalking.
Oh,
Oh, okay.
That's true.
He's not
That's true.
wrong.
Yeah.
He's not. It's
And
not a lie.
it was playful stalking. If you call it that. And,
That
I
sounds-
mean, what's not? Really?
Yeah, what's not?
That
Yeah.
just sounds creepy.
And
though.
gosh.
but yeah, absolutely. And
Yeah.
I mean, I liked it. And,
It worked out,
He was
obviously.
into it. It was
yeah,
fine.
yeah.
Yeah, we met at a party in college, and I followed him around the party the whole time. But I was like hiding. Like I didn't want him to
Oh my
know.
gosh.
Oh yeah, it got really weird. I
Okay.
didn't want him to know that I was like hiding and like looking at him and stuff. So I was like behind corners, like looking, and then I would just like casually kind of like stroll past, you know,
Flipping your hair.
my pheromones out there, and he didn't even.
Did you notice? Did you notice her following you around?
Absolutely. I remember looking around and just seeing this really wide-eyed girl
What?
just kind of hiding it. No, I'm
No,
kidding.
I was like, what? You never told me that before.
No, I didn't notice at
Oh.
all. But yeah,
You must have done a
you
good job.
pursued me. We became good friends, and also you were the one to ask me out,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, via Facebook.
Oh.
Yeah. I was
very
across
cool.
the country
Yeah,
in
he was.
Montana.
I waited till he was out of town. So I'm like, that way I don't have to see him.
Yeah.
If he says, no, you're gross, I'm like, cool, it's fine.
That
You're
would
out of
be
town
a-
for 6 days.
No, you're gross.
Oh.
Get away from me. No way. But yeah, you asked me out, and then the rest is history. But yeah.
But
you-
like
you
he was
pursued
like interested. Like it's
Oh,
not like
yeah.
I
We
wore him
believe- we
down.
believe.
me. Yeah,
I'm sure he was ecstatic.
I was.
Okay.
All right. All
You
right.
guys.
Our turn.
Philip?
All right, I definitely pursued you first,
Yeah,
right?
I think so.
Yeah. I think you've probably talked about the first time we met on the podcast, right?
Yeah.
And you thought I was a nerd.
Yeah.
Oh.
We were in the band together in college, and
Marching band.
Yeah.
A little cooler than
Yeah.
that.
Philip was on the
You
trumpet.
said nerd.
So I was extremely interested in you from the beginning, and I remember getting your number so that I could text you like set list songs and stuff for a college retreat,
Yeah.
and that was super sneaky.
And then we were supposed to do a band like dinner together, and I volunteered to make spaghetti, and Philip was like, "Oh well, I'll just come over and help you make the spaghetti."
I'll help make spaghetti.
And so-
Yeah,
Nice.
it's
You
a
definitely
very
need-
difficult
Yeah,
thing
I
to
needed a
make.
lot of help
Definitely
making
need-
the spaghetti.
So, and I like that was the first time we hung out, right?
Yeah,
We
like
kinda hung out
one-on-one.
all day together,
Mhm.
and that's where it started. And we just started texting and talking from there. And I did not think you were gonna want to go out with me because you're 2 years older than me.
He was a freshman and I was a junior, and I thought it was weird.
I ended up getting some encouragement from one of our best friends. Shout out to Mikey. But yeah, so that's kind of how it...
Yeah. The way we became boyfriend and girlfriend, officially.
She's doing air quotes.
Air quotes.
Since no one can see.
We were at somebody's house, and I mean, we were obviously like a pair, but he hadn't officially asked me like be his girlfriend or whatever yet.
It's important. It's important stuff.
Yeah, it's important. It makes, you have to do the official stuff. One of our friend's sisters said, "So are y'all dating?" And Philip just looked at the ground and wouldn't answer. And so I got mad and I was like, "We're just friends."
Ooh.
And so then...
And I took that personally.
Yeah.
Michael Jordan gift.
And so then that night, I think we talked about it, and I was like, "Well, you obviously don't want me to be your girlfriend." And then he asked me out. It was stupid. It was really stupid.
Okay, do you want to be my girlfriend? Please be my girlfriend. She made me beg a little bit. And
I was like, "Well, if you really want me to." I did hold your hand first, though, I think.
yes, you did. You made the first move.
I made the first
Yeah,
move.
I did that too.
I mean, as
She
an
did
older
make
woman, I
first
felt
move, yeah.
responsible, I felt like I
Sorry,
Yeah.
Phil.
Next question.
Did you ever ask me to be your girlfriend? I don't think you ever officially. Are we even together? You
No.
never even like. I
Well,
don't think there was an
it's
official.
it's not that important.
When-
That's what
yeah.
we're
say I
saying.
do.
So when I
Just
came home from Montana, because I said, let's talk about it when we get back. I had the, I said like, I wasn't like,
Wow, that sounds like
let's
you're
talk about it when I
breaking
come
up
back.
with her.
No. You said, hey, I like you a lot, but we need it. And then I said, hey, I have the same feelings, but we need to kind of go over
So
this.
typical.
We got to talk about it.
Yeah. So when I got back, I guess I was the one who kind of established that. Like, okay, so we're dating now.
I just remember we were at another party in college, and I heard he was wearing a shirt that I had gotten him for his 21st birthday, and there was a guy at the party. I was like out by where their like back deck area was, and he was on the back deck, and he couldn't see me, and I heard him talking to somebody, and the guy was like, "Hey, I like that shirt," and he was like, "Oh, thanks, my girlfriend got it for me," and I was like, "Oh, he got me his girlfriend. We haven't even talked about this
yeah.
yet." And then I went and found Justin, his brother, and I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh my gosh, he's
And this
badass."
was big too, because Jensen was my first girlfriend,
Yeah.
my first kiss,
Mm-hmm.
first everything,
Really?
really. Yeah.
Aw,
And I was the one who said, "I love you" first.
That's true. He did. Finally.
finally.
The first at doing something. Yeah. It was
Philip
good.
you
said
go.
I love you
Same.
first, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fun.
Did you say it back or did you say like thank you or something?
I said thank you.
Did you?
On purpose, because we had
Oh,
watched something where somebody said "I love you," thank you, and Philip was like, "That would be the worst thing in the world." So I made a mental note. Okay, whenever he says "I love you," I'll say thank you.
It wasn't like
He
it was.
didn't think it was funny.
Yeah.
It was as funny as you would think it.
Yeah.
But then I said it back. I mean, I didn't leave him hanging for too long.
Yeah,
Aw.
and I
Well,
didn't- I
too
didn't-
long. How long?
Yeah.
A
And
couple
I
of minutes.
also didn't hold a grudge for all these years since then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
All right.
Okay, I
Next
guess I'll do
question.
the next question.
All right.
Okay, so someone asked, can you talk about expectations and how you handle those as a newlywed?
Okay. Well,
Y'all can go first.
as a newlywed, I think when we got married, I expected, well, some of it, I feel like you grow up watching your parents, and so you assume that everything's going to be the exact same way that your parents did things. And for me, it was like stupid things. Like my dad would like take out the trash and do like blah, 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 blah. And I just expected Philip to know that and like to do exactly what my dad did in the home all the time. And so when he didn't, I would just get upset about it and be like, well, why don't you ever take out the trash, or why don't you ever like, stupid things like that. I just expected him to like know all of the quote husband roles.
Mm-hmm.
And whenever he didn't, it would make me mad, or like, I just remember even like spiritual things, like I would hold grudges, like, well, he never asked me how I'm doing spiritually or whatever, which the reason he didn't is because I would just tell him, there was no reason for him to ask me because he already knew, but I would like expect him to check off all these things, and when he didn't, I would be upset about it. So that's all I can really think of as far as expectations. And even like having kids, when we were going to have kids and stuff like that, like I expected a certain timeline that he had different in his head or whatever. And
I think A lot of my expectations were like that we were gonna play house essentially. It's kind of weird. Like you think that's what the girl's dream is or whatever when she's a little girl, but I thought things were just gonna be easy and like, you know, we were gonna graduate college. I was gonna have a great job. We were gonna have plenty of money. We were gonna have, you know, this great marriage. It was gonna be super easy. We were just like everything that, you know, was difficult about dating was gonna be easy in marriage or something like that. And quickly you realize that the more you spend time with a person, the closer you are to them, the more they get under your skin, and the more the annoying things that you do annoy the other person even more. And you have to figure out very quickly what your own faults are. And
Because then you realize too, like what you do that's
Yeah.
really annoying.
and like what your selfishness is,
Yeah,
and
your
what
selfishness.
your most sinful things
Yeah.
are, and it really quickly reveals a lot of things to you. And if you're not okay with that, and if you're not self-aware
Yeah.
about that kind of stuff, then it can make that first year of marriage super difficult. So I think we learned a lot about just our own selfishness and how to sacrifice more for one another, how to argue, how to fight, how to just be okay with that sometimes, that you know everything wasn't always going to be super easy, but we had to figure out how to fight through things and then be okay with each other again, because you can't go anywhere and you don't want to go anywhere.
I think for me, as far as expectations go, I think that when we got married, I had an expectation that things would always be the way that they were. Like, he would always be the person that he was when we were dating. He would always, like, you know, I would always be that person too. And we would have a super great marriage because we had a super great dating relationship. And, you know, no matter what's thrown our way, we're the same people. But when you get married to somebody, I mean, that person changes and you change as you grow and get older and have children and stuff like that. And I think that understanding that you grow like with one another. And I remember one time we got in an argument and I said, like, you know, I feel like you're just a different person. And you said, well, you're a different person too. And I was like, oh my gosh, I think he's right. Like, we're completely different people than who we were when we got married. And not in a bad way. Not, you know, it wasn't like a bait and switch where, you know, he was one way when we were dating and then we got married and he's a totally different guy. But we've grown and we've learned and we've, you know, been sharpened and like allowed God to change us from the inside for sure. And we've just changed in that way. And it changes things in your marriage and in your relationship when you're going through things that change you, I think.
Yeah, and you know, I think it's so important that it's awesome that you guys had that foundation in the Lord together when y'all got married. We were, you know, as much as you grew up in the church, as much as I thought I knew, we were still babies a little bit. We were really, our lives were already intertwined with each other before we got married. But so I think, like what you said, I thought it'd be kind of similar when we got married. But I think also when we found our identity in the Lord together and started pursuing that together is when our perspective started changing and we really saw each other like as new people, and we weren't used to that. So like the expectations were kind of like different in the middle of the first few years, because that's when we started really pursuing the Lord, and he was kind of opening our eyes a little bit to see what he wants from us and how different that was compared to what we were doing.
Well, I think it's important too. I mean, when we did y'all do premarital counseling? Yeah. So I'm sure, who did yours? Did your dad do yours?
No.
Because my dad did our premarital
Oh, really?
counseling. Yeah.
Our college pastor did it.
Okay. 0
our
stars.
past-
Do not recommend.
Well,
My dad's wonderful. He does a great job.
And our pastor
he
was
was
your
our
dad.
pastor
Yeah,
at the
so-
time, so
Yeah.
it made sense.
Yeah.
But like, it was way too
Awkward.
uncomfortable. But one thing that we talked about was expectations in marriage. Like, I think that's such an important conversation to have before you get married.
Yeah.
is to talk about expectations, like in every way, like financial expectations, sexual expectations, like all of that stuff is so important to know and understand up front, so that when you get into marriage and you're a year into it and you're like, what the heck is going on?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
kind of avoids.
Yeah,
that.
just be careful with it. You don't want to, like, because we all have those parents, like that Geico commercial with the ants that come into town. And it's like, oh, it's a lot of house. I hope you can keep it clean. Like we always we have those family members like, I don't think you're ready for this. You need to, you don't want that, but you do want to be careful with each other and kind of preparing for that.
Mm-hmm.
When we went into this, we thought it'd be a breeze, just with our relationship beforehand, but we didn't realize like sharing money was a little difficult, and being intimate was a little difficult, both physically and emotionally, and all that. And so it's something that I wish was emphasized a lot more when we were getting ready for it.
Yeah. I agree. Well, and then I think too, some people, I can't even tell you how many times people would like negatively talk about marriage as like, oh, just wait for that first year, it's the worst and stuff like that. And I'm like, that is so not helpful for people to say.
Right.
And so compared to that, like I felt like, because I was just expecting our first year of marriage to be the worst thing ever based on what people said, and it wasn't. But like another thing y'all were talking about too with the expectations, I also went into our marriage just expecting all of a sudden Philip to be this like spiritual guru almost. Like
Narrator, he was not.
well, no, not because you did anything wrong. It was like I almost felt like I had no responsibility in the matter at all. Like Philip was supposed to drag me along spiritually, basically, and like with our relationship with the Lord and what's wrong with him, not what's wrong with me, and putting everything on him, and not like pursuing intimacy with the Lord myself, because everything was Philip's fault. You know what I mean?
A lot of pressure.
Yeah, it was a lot of pressure, and he was 21. Like, like I don't know why I put so much pressure on him, but yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Marriage is great and it's so wonderful, but it is important to be realistic about it, because it is two sinners coming together,
Right.
not two perfect people coming together.
It's true.
It's and once we realize, we are two sinners coming together, but we're also two people who have access to the same Holy Spirit, right? The same Lord, and
equal response. I mean,
Right.
the man is supposed to be the head or whatever, but you have equal responsibility in your relationship with the Lord,
right.
for sure.
Yep.
And
Kinda
Philip
leads
is a
in-
great spiritual leader.
Oh, thank
I
you
would-
so much.
She said it.
I do want to say that he is, but yeah,
We've
I
come
was
a
just
long
like,
way, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But that
yeah,
kind
it
of
was
leads
very
into
selfish.
unequally yoked or equally yoked
Oh, okay,
too,
yeah.
right?
So another question is the next question actually. What are your thoughts on being equally yoked with your spouse?
Do that.
Yeah.
Be equally yoked.
Yes.
I guess. But there have definitely been I feel like that phrase is kind of just tossed around, but people don't really understand what that means, because there's going to be times in your marriage where one person's like pursuit of the Lord is stronger than the other, right?
Yeah,
Do you agree with that? And I think that we've kind of seen, I mean, both of us have gone up and down since we've been married, and we have encouraged each other and all that. And I think that's why it's so important to be in tune with your spouse's like spiritual stuff. You need to, like what you were saying, you need to be asking, you need to be aware, you need to like there was a time when, gosh, it was probably, Judah was a baby, I think. And so it was probably 5 years ago. And I remember there was a time when I just noticed that Jess was, not pursuing the Lord like I had seen him do before. And so I started praying about it and asking the Lord about it. And I was like, I'm just going to tell him, hey, you need to be doing this, and you need to be in your Bible every day, and you need to be on fire for the Lord like you were before. And God just so clearly was like, no, I don't want you to say anything to him. I just want you to pray for him. And that's it. And that was when I started keeping a prayer journal where I literally write down everything that I'm praying to God every day. And prayed about it for probably 2 or 3 weeks. And then we went out to dinner and we were sitting at the table and he was like, yeah, I just feel like I really have not been pursuing God the way that I should be. And I really want to, I'm going to start getting back into it. And like all these things that I had prayed for were happening just because I you know, and I didn't even have to talk to you about it.
Hmm.
But I mean, during that time, I wouldn't say that we were unequally yoked necessarily, because I don't know. Are we saying unequally yoked means
A
like
believer,
one is a believer
an
and one is not?
unbeliever,
Okay, yeah. So yeah, that's definitely not unequally yoked. But
But on a larger scale, like that can kind of put into perspective if you were to be with an unbeliever, like how much harder it would be.
yeah.
Right.
Well, and I think if you are a believer, and you truly care about your relationship with Christ, and you really have a desire to pursue Christ likeness, then marrying someone that doesn't hold that doesn't know the Lord, I would never say that it's like never gonna work or anything like that, because I know that there have been times when it has, but I just feel like if you don't have Jesus in common, then you don't really have anything in common. And if you don't have anything in common, how is a relationship going to flourish the way that it is intended to? And how do you define marriage too? If it's not, you know, a covenant that you've created with this person and God,
Yeah.
you know, it just kind of gets kind of weird.
Well, and I mean, it says in the Bible very clearly not to be unequally yoked. And 2 Corinthians 6:14 says, "Don't be yoked together with unbelievers, for what do righteousness and wickedness have in common, or what fellowship can light have with darkness?" And that doesn't mean if you get married and you're both unbelievers and one of you becomes a believer, you get divorced. That's not what you're
Right.
supposed to do.
I just think it just has to come down to
I mean, I
the
know that
mindset of what your goal with marriage is, because our marriages are supposed to be instruments in getting us closer to Christ. And if you're going into that relationship with a non-believer, boy, is that going to be difficult, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so if you're going in with the mindset that God is going to save this person, or I'm going to be
Right.
the witness to this person, and they're going to come to know the Lord, it's just going to be a very, very difficult. You know, we have experienced how difficult marriage is when we have the exact same pursuit of,
Yeah.
of going after Christ, and a relationship with Christ is first and foremost. So I can't imagine how much harder that would be to be doing that, and your spouse is not kind of on the same page.
Yeah, and God doesn't say that in the Bible to make life harder on us. If you were to fall in love with an unbeliever, it's ultimately to make it easier for you, because he knows what a marriage unequally yoked like that would be like. But yeah, I mean, he has and can save someone who's married to a believer by using that believer. But, you know, the goal, I think, is to be equally yoked in the beginning.
Yeah. But also, like what Jensen was saying, I think we do, like as couples, as Christians, we go through different periods where one, partner's pursuing the Lord more than the other one, and I think that can be a form of that, and we experience that, I think, too. You know, you already mentioned that you kind of wanted me to be that awesome spiritual leader right at the start of our marriage, and that's just is not really where I was in my pursuit of the Lord. You know, I was 100% a believer and loved the Lord, but it took me a while to get there. It took us a while to get there to where we were both kind of, I guess, pursuing the Lord at the same pace, and where it was the main focus of our relationship, and intimacy with the Lord was number one on both of our lists, and we've seen the fruit of that, I think, in just within the last year. So I think that is a form of being equally yoked, is kind of how much emphasis you put on your relationship with the Lord as a couple.
I've been on the outside of relationships that were kind of based off of that mindset where, I can get, I know they're an unbeliever, I can get them there. I'm like in love with them, and I think God has even put them in my life for me to save them, or to lead them to Jesus. And I just think that's a really hard fight, because like I just want to question the motives. Are we really pursuing this relationship because we love Jesus, or are we really pursuing this relationship because we love them, and kind of using Jesus as like a reason or excuse to do it,
Yeah.
And you gotta, like, when you're intimate with this person who's a non-believer, relationally intimate, how do you mesh that with your foundation that you're kind of secured in, and are you even secured then? It's a hard thing, because I don't want to say what the Holy Spirit can do, and I don't know if God has used those kind of relationships, but it is clear you cannot be unequally yoked. If you go after it that way, I can just I don't see the foundation there.
And
to
if
grow.
you do too, it's disobedience. And so if God does save that person, it's probably despite you, not because of you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this is a good one. How does your marriage change when you have kids?
This might be the longest one.
It doesn't. Everything stays the same.
Yeah, it's all perfect.
And that's the end of that. Next question. No, changes in a major way. We got pregnant with our son Judah, not long after we got married. He was not planned. It was not on purpose. And we got married in November 2013, and we got pregnant with him in July of 2014. Yeah, it was a lot sooner than we had planned. And we were 23. I think I had just turned 24 when he was born, and that's really young. And so when you already have, you get pregnant when you are not meaning to, and then have a baby when you're in your early 20s, just changes a lot of things. And going back kind of to the expectations, I had an expectation of Jess knowing exactly what to do, when to do it, and really filling a role that wasn't his to fill. I was relying on him, especially during the newborn phase, relying on him so much to be who Jesus is meant to be to me. He failed miserably at being Jesus, as it turns out, which is not his fault at all. But I mean, that led to a pretty rough time in our marriage, I think, for both of us, because I was just expecting so much. And then
I had placed full responsibility on you for Judah, because we just had no idea what we were doing. I had expectation for myself to be like a better dad than my dad was and my stepdad was, and to kind of go into it pretty strong. But I was scared to death, and that came about pretty quick after we all came home. And I remember kind of purposely staying late at work, and kind of just taking my time, because I didn't want to go back. I loved my son, but I didn't have that oomph behind it to actually try to be a father. And I remember coming home and just kind of letting her do everything. I would immediately go get in front of the TV and just kind of zone out. And I think a breaking point, just being honest, for me happened when I think I just kind of distanced myself from the family entirely. And we were in bed one day, and she just straight up asked me if I wanted to get a divorce, if I wanted to leave her, because I just wasn't around. And that just kind of, I was like, where is that coming from? And she explained everything, and it just brought to light how selfish I was, and how just she brought up there's been a couple times in our early marriage where I felt like I just wasn't on fire for the Lord, and I kind of let these external things happen, including my child, get in the way of that. And so then on, I think that's when we both committed to being on top of our relationship with the Lord first of all, because we know if we're settled in that, it makes this marriage thing a lot easier. It made raising Judah a lot easier. And it got to the point too where when Canaan came, it was just so easy. Yeah. And when he came out, it was just hopefully Judah doesn't get hurt by it when he hears this in 20 years, but I just had a different feeling. I was so happy that Canaan was here, and I was obviously Judah is my guy, and he's my son, and he is just so above me. And but it's different once you have that perspective, once you have that foundation underneath you to kind of, you have a safety net underneath you. You're willing to take that risk into parenthood. And,
When I think that with Judah, it was such a time of like refinement and sharpening for us so much, and that is kind of what I attached to Judah's like birth and his story and stuff, is how much we learned and how much we grew from that. And then when our son Cannon was born, which was 2017, when he was born, it was like a picture of the redemption that God had created in our relationship. Because it's true, like when we brought him home, I remember sitting at the dinner table, and like newborn days are not really my thing. Like, call me when they're 4 months old, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I remember, and Cannon was also not an easy baby. Not an easy baby. But despite all of that, we were sitting at the dinner table, and I remember looking at him and saying, like, this is the happiest I have ever been in my life. I have never been so full of joy, like more than I am right now. And it just shows the work that God had done. Because I truly have never loved my husband more than I do now. And I think that really started when Cannon was born, and that just the redemption that came from in our relationship, and we got to see the fruit of what God had been doing through that refinement and stuff the last however many years.
So did we have like the exact opposite?
I was about to say ours is the
Really?
exact opposite. So Ella was, it was a sweet time for us when Ella was born, our firstborn. She was such an easy baby. Super easy, like
picturesque, so sweet, slept so much.
I mean, our
That's
firstborn little
unfair.
girl, so we just thought we were really good parents. Then we moved to Atlanta, the Atlanta area, after having been in Florida for 10 months and Augusta before that. Basically always together. We worked together for a long time. When he was in school, we were just together all the time. And then moved here, and Philip got a corporate job and was gone all the time, and we got pregnant with Will. And my pregnancy, it was a fine pregnancy, but didn't sleep hardly at all.
The last 3 months.
I'm not a nice person when I don't sleep.
Probably the worst 3 months of our marriage.
Yeah, I'm a completely different person. And then Will came out and he was just a horrible baby. He came out just mad. He was 8 days late to start things off with. We had to force him out of there. He came out just mad. He just didn't sleep. He was mad. He wouldn't let us stay still. We had to constantly be like, the only way Philip could get him to stop crying was to stand in the middle of the room cradling him and going back and forth as fast as he possibly could. That was the only way he would stop crying, because he wanted to be moving. He basically came out wanting to be a grown man and still wants to be a grown man. But that, with Ella, it was, like I said, it was just like a really sweet time. And Will, it was different. But it was a good thing. It was a hard season. And it was a long season. Yeah. But it ended up being really good.
Like it lasted a whole year.
We just got out of his newborn stage, basically, like a few months ago. But it did refine us a ton, and it made us closer and made us understand each other more. Yeah. And even understand what each other needs more, and how we need, need to be loved or whatever, or cared for, or whatever.
What matters most in the way that we care for one another.
Yeah, because we have different. Yeah, we're different people, and so.
Yeah, we didn't necessarily learn that with our first child, right?
Because
it took
everything
around 2
was
for
easy.
us to go through a lot of the normal struggles that you might go with when you first have a child, right?
We realized it wasn't because we were good parents. We just had a really easy child.
Yeah, and we did. We had a lot of. I'm sure we had a lot of struggles with Ella, but they so paled in comparison that we just completely forgot about them after Tasmanian Devil Will came.
Oh my gosh, she's crazy. We love her so much.
And the past,
crazy.
But even and then kind of coming down off of that crazy wave, and then he's still kind of crazy, but
he's very crazy.
But going through that, like the past, I think this year for us has probably been the best year of our marriage,
Yeah.
wouldn't you say?
Yeah,
Right? And it's been
sure.
the happiest that we've ever been. So kind of in the reverse order of what you guys did, kind of arrived at the same place.
Yeah. Yeah, just different.
But also,
different
like,
order.
just in simple terms of what changes when you have kids is
Yeah,
like
yeah.
your
Yeah.
free time. Like
Yeah.
before you
Oh,
had kids,
yeah.
like you're like, what are we gonna do tonight?
Right.
And why don't we ever go on dates anymore?
Yeah.
And-
I don't even remember life before kids hardly.
No.
Yeah.
Let
No,
me
I don't
let me
either.
explain something to the listeners that don't have children but want to have children at some point. Take your time. Enjoy the time, just the two of you, because you will never get that back. And I know you're like, oh, we can go on vacations and my mom will watch the kid. No.
It's not the same.
Even if that's the truth, it's like a physiological, if that's a word.
You got it. Nailed it.
Is that
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, you
Yeah.
got it.
There it is. Thing that like exhausts you every second of every day, and you are never the same.
Yeah.
We have gone on vacations, just the two of us, and it's been so wonderful, and we have so enjoyed it. But like before kids, if we went on a vacation, just the two of us, or like a little weekend getaway, just the two of us, I wasn't thinking about anybody else. I wasn't thinking, oh, I hope that Virginia's okay at home. You know, I hope she's eating her dinner. No, ain't nobody care about that. When you have children and you're alone with your spouse somewhere, whatever, half of your brain is thinking about Judah and Cannon with Nana, making sure that they're not destroying her will to live. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
exhausting.
Yeah, is it? And we don't want to discourage anyone from having children. It's wonderful.
No, it's the
Yeah,
greatest thing in the
yeah.
world.
But it
What a
is
blessing.
Nothing. You want me to tell you what makes me more mad than anything in the world?
Tell me.
Do we ever? Everybody is waiting.
When
with pins and
someone
needles.
who doesn't have a child says they're tired from their 7 hours of sleep.
Yeah.
I
A lot of people listening just got called out.
Yeah, I know.
Stephen McLean, my little brother. I would sleep 3 to 4 hours a night in Will's newborn stage, and that's not an exaggeration. I went like 5 months on 3 hours of sleep a night. And Stephen would call me and tell me how tired he was from his 7 hours of sleep a night. And I let him have it. And he never did it again, did he?
Mm-mm.
Man,
Love you,
that's
bud.
rough.
Love you. He doesn't listen to this. Anyways.
But and then another thing is it does make you appreciate, I think, the time you do get alone with your spouse a lot more.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
It makes you more intentional, because I remember before we had Ella, we would have we would go 20 nights in a row just watching Netflix for 3 hours a night and kind of get dissatisfied with our free time. Like, why aren't we going on dates? Why aren't we doing fun things? Why aren't we talking? Why aren't we sharing? And then like,
zoned out in
yeah,
front
and
of
then
the
when
TV
you
all the
don't,
time.
when you have kids, and when that's not necessarily the norm, and all your free time together is precious, I think you make a lot better use of it, and you
Appreciate it.
you value it more. I think we've pursued each other even
Yeah.
better now. Now through having kids and just being more intentional and that kind of thing.
And it is really sweet to see your spouse become, to see Philip become a dad was really fun, and to see how he is as a dad. And, so that changes. You kind of like see each other in a new way, like a new facet of each other, I guess.
Yeah, that's true.
You're a real good dad.
You're a real great mom.
Thanks.
We're okay.
Appreciate it.
Okay.
No, and I think too, understanding that you're a team and that you're working together is important. And I think that changed for us too, because when we first got married, we were obviously together, but I don't think we had like a team mentality.
Yeah.
And now with our kids are 5 and 3, and that sounds so weird, but that's true. Our kids are 5 and 3, and I feel like we've really understood that, like the 4 of us were a team, but you and I are the team, you know?
The A team.
The A team, for sure. And, he doesn't, like, I don't know. And
And we have to remember that, and I think it's common for specifically non-believers, but even like it's very common to see somebody's Facebook post like, my kids are number one, and
Oh, yeah.
I'll do anything for my kids, I'll die for my kids, and there's nothing about the spouse ever. When really our situation, our relationship has to be solid
Mm-hmm.
in order to support the kids. You know,
Yeah.
if we put the kids before one of us, then I mean, I think that's a lot of what causes divorce.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Oh, yeah.
I agree.
Being a child of divorce, I know my mom loved me more than my dad. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I think she would agree. And they got divorced. So like, I think a lot of the marital strife with, you know, no kid wants to hear it's their fault, but it's like that relationship might be the fault
Mm-hmm.
of that kind of dismantling.
Always keeping your spouse first.
Yeah.
Is
Yeah, I
important.
remember one time asking my dad, "Do you love mom more than you love us?" And he was like, "Yeah,"
Mm.
like immediately. And
Yeah.
I was so offended.
Yeah.
But it also brought comfort to know that he loved mom more than us and that she was his number one. And of course, they love us like
Yeah.
so much, but she's his person. That's how, like, you're right. That's how it should be. Like, this is your person, and your kids are our responsibility to protect and to raise and stuff like that. But I'm with him for the rest of my life. Not my kid. My kids are gonna leave me.
Yeah.
And
It's true.
I mean, they're out when they're 18. They're getting out.
Get out of here.
At least Will, right?
They're not living with us for forever. Yeah, at least Will get out. He's already colored on all my walls, and he's not even 2 yet. I don't know what I'm gonna do with him. But Ella does say she's gonna live with us forever, but she did change it to she's gonna buy the house right across the street from us. So
Hey,
Ouch.
like the Barones.
we'll see.
They're right over
Yeah.
here.
Oh yeah, I'm sure her husband will love that. Okay.
All right, the next one's you.
Okay. Next question: how do you handle arguments?
You go first.
All right. Well, so I think we have come a long way in this. My personality, if we're in an argument, I'm in competition mode and I want to win. And so I will go into like lawyer mode and I will drive it home until he's sick of me talking. And his
And I play
inclination,
defense.
well, that it used to be you would just immediately say, I'm sorry. Like,
First
not-
like turtle shelled.
yeah, you just say I'm sorry because you would want to be done with it.
Yeah.
I remember in our premarital counseling, our college pastor talking about that. I guess the way to argue and to make sure you're not just trying to get past the argument or win the argument, but like really come up with a solution. I guess I don't know.
I think that was when we first started. Like you wanted to win, and I wanted to be done.
Yeah.
I
So
wanted-
I would win.
Yeah,
wanted-
I was fine with you winning as long as we were done and okay again very quickly.
Yeah.
Because I did not like the tension. I don't like confrontation. And I definitely don't like people who are mad at me. Because
People pleaser.
I want to be affirmed and I don't want my wife to hate me. So that was, I would just immediately apologize. Didn't care what I did. Didn't know what it was for.
I'm sorry.
I'm
Let's
so
move
sorry.
on.
Yeah. And then we kind of moved through that, and you didn't like that, so
You didn't like that.
so now I realized we
I
needed
sound
What
pretty
else
hard
could
to
you
live
do?
with.
we needed to fight a little bit more. But then my tendency was to like immediately defend myself and be
Yeah.
like, "This is why, you're not right. This is why you're not necessarily right all the time, and why I did what I did or whatever." And that also didn't play that well with you. So, we're still we're still learning, but I think the number one thing that we've always had whenever we fight is that we have it out like immediately, and we don't retreat to our separate spaces,
Yeah.
and we don't let it linger. Like we tend to get it all out in the open.
We always end up laughing at how stupid it was.
Yeah,
at the end
but-
every time.
But I think both of our personalities are to get it done, like to get through it, kind of in one sitting,
Yeah.
and to be okay again with each other after that. Even if the hurt is still there somewhat, it's not always easy to like immediately wipe the slate clean or whatever. But I think both of our personalities are to fight and then let the dust settle immediately.
The only time we didn't do that immediately, we were fighting, and Philip fell asleep in the middle of the fight.
You used to
And
always
so-
pick fight with me in bed at 10:30
This
at
is
night.
probably our first year of marriage. fell asleep in the middle of the fight. And so I was like, I'll show him. I'll go sleep in the guest bed. And so I went and slept in the guest bed. I had the worst time sleeping, couldn't fall asleep. Next morning, I woke up and he was still asleep. Never knew that I slept
Dude,
in a different
I
bed.
get
We
that.
have done that.
She's the same
Literally
way.
have done this, and I couldn't sleep. I went to sleep on the couch. I couldn't sleep, and I'm like, "Ugh, he better be like tossing and turning or whatever." And then I think I hear
Sleeping like a
something, and I'm like,
baby.
"Oh, he's gonna come get me." And so I'd like try to fall, like pretend to fall asleep, and I'm like, "No, it was the dog. Like he doesn't care at all." And I would go in there, his mouth is open, he's snoring, he's out, and I'm like, "You know what? This is ridiculous."
Yeah, because I've always held the position where there's no need to sleep somewhere else, and if
Oh,
you're gonna
for
sleep
sure.
somewhere
Yeah,
else,
there's
that's
not.
your problem.
Yeah.
I'm staying in bed. You know,
I was
like
just being dramatic.
Yeah,
you know?
same.
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
funny.
Well, and I think for us, I'm super. Okay. I don't know the line between like being extremely passive aggressive and being extremely aggressive. Like, there's no middle for me. I'm either one or the other. Wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
Yeah. So when we fight, I'm typically the more passive aggressive. Like, no, it's fine. It's whatever. It's fine. Like
And
that
then we'll
kind of
talk
thing.
about it at 10:30 at night in bed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I saw, didn't I send you that thing that said, it's like everybody tells you when you get married not to go to bed angry, but nobody tells you to stop picking bites at 10:30 at night.
Yeah.
Like, it's a real thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've always been the more passive aggressive person, and I'm married to the most humble and gracious, I was about to say not even in a good way. Like, it's obnoxious how humble and gracious you are. And you're always the one that's like,
Gosh,
always the first to apologize. Always the first to, like, and it's never like an apology, like he just wants to get it over with. It's always
Right.
like, asking for my forgiveness. And
How
it's
annoying.
ridiculous.
Oh my
Well, I mean,
gosh.
let's be real though, and I appreciate the picture you're painting of me, but it's not like immediate. You know?
No, not at all.
It's I mean, a lot of it is when you're mad at me. A lot of it is, let's talk about it. Hey, I'm not going to bed until we talk about it, and like just pushing you to talk about it.
Yeah.
And then finally you're like, enough. Stop annoying me. I'll talk about it, and then we'll, maybe what you said about me happens after that.
Yeah.
But
Well, and there's in the show New Girl, there's Nick Miller. He has a line where he says, "If we were supposed to talk about feelings, they would be called talkings." And I feel like that's me. Like, I'm like, I don't want to talk about it. And then he pushes and pushes and pushes
yeah, and
until.
and you're not the only one that gets mad. I get mad too, and I do the same thing where I don't want to talk, and then you're usually like, I'm sorry, before, like, because I think you just want it to be over.
Yeah.
Like, you're usually
Yeah,
apologizing
Yep.
before reasoning, like before talking it out. So it goes both ways. We never really like get into little fights, like, I think we know each other's personalities and know each other enough to where, like, we might get annoyed with each other often, but it's usually like, all right, whatever, and then like we're totally fine. It's like the big fights that kind of linger into the night, and we never, like, we've gone to bed angry and woke up the next morning, but it's usually followed up with a text. If I'm not there, if I'm at work, it's followed up with a text like, are you mad at me, or you want to talk about it, or and then text is like the ultimate platform to lay out your feelings because you don't have to be there. Like, yeah, this is what happened. I
Marriage
just feel
tip.
like, like texting kind of
Just
changes the game there,
text
and usually we'll resolve it there, and when we get home it'll be fine. And yeah, thank you for telling me I'm so great, but it's not the case. We
Humble
fight.
and gracious.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I think, handling arguments, you just kind of learn as you go. That's not something that you can really prepare for so much prior to marriage, I don't think. Because you've never lived life with someone the way you do when you're married. And you've never, I don't know, the arguments are different than normal stuff. And your lives are
Can't go anywhere.
No, yeah, and like your lives are
sharing your
completely
life.
intertwined,
Yeah.
and I think a lot of the things that we have argued about are things that we share, like family. We argue about how to handle family situations and stuff like that, and that's something that you just kind of, it's just trial and error. You just have to kind of learn as you go. But understanding that humility is really just the most important piece of it. And I don't think that we together have really practiced that as much as we have in the last year, just with, you know, everything that's changed for us in 2020 and all that kind of stuff. I think that our communication and humility towards one another has gotten exponentially better than it has in the past. Because, like I was saying before, this is your teammate, this is your person. Mm-hmm. And so you need to learn how to resolve things with them quickly, but not like passively, I guess. I don't know. And that's just something that you learn as you go.
And learning how to say you're sorry, because that's something I had to learn how to say.
Me too.
Quicker, whereas Philip had to say it slower. I had to learn to be able to realize where I was wrong quicker and actually be genuinely sorry for it.
Okay, so this is the last one, and it's what have been the best and hardest parts of marriage?
Well, I don't know that, because we talk about expectations, but we kind of conclude that we really have no idea what to expect. And the best part, I think, of marriage is kind of finding out the reality of marriage, and finding and kind of realizing the true like self of your spouse and of yourself, like the who they are and you know who they are to the Lord and who they are to you, and just kind of sharing your life and realizing like what love is, you know, and love being expressed to somebody else other than yourself. I don't think we grasp that until we're married. You know, where we make that commitment to somebody. So I think the best part is just the realization of shared love.
Hardest part?
There's just so many.
Okay. All right.
Which one?
All right. I think for me personally, it's been relinquishing control, and understanding that I'm not the head of our house, and I'm a leader in our house, but I'm not the leader. That's been really difficult for me because I'm someone that I see things very like black and white. You know, I have an opinion about everything. I see the way that it should be, and there's a right way and a wrong way, and my way is the right way and your way is the wrong way, and that's the way that it is. And Jess sees everything in every shade of gray. I mean, like, all over the place. And which is great because I think we complement each other in that way. But when it comes to like decision making and leading our house and leading our children and stuff like that, I think for me it's just been difficult to have a situation play out in our lives, like within our family or whatever, and having to say like, okay, I'm letting you handle this. You know, even though I would handle it a totally different way, his way is no worse or better than mine, but it's just totally different. And understanding like it's his job to lead in that way. And he always asks me and he always comes to me and we talk through it and stuff. But I think one of the hardest parts for me has been just letting you take the reins in our home. And I think we were in a situation for like 2.5 years where Jess was working a job that was way more than full time. I mean, you were working like 55 hours a week, and it left me at home with our kids. And so I got into the mentality that if anything happened that had to do with the kids, it was on me. And at first, I think I kind of played like victim and played like a martyr, like I'm, doing all these things for my children. But then it got to the point where I was just possessive of being in control of our kids. It, like almost teaching him how to be a dad to them because the way he was doing things was different than the way I wanted them to be done. And I'm like, well, I'm with the kids all day, so I'm the one that has the say so. And we're not in that situation anymore, and it's super great. But even in that time, I look back and see how much I was just holding on to control and not allowing Jess to be the husband and the father that God was pushing him to be, and not allowing God to do the work that he wanted to do in him and in our marriage too.
So, and I'm speaking, I guess, for you because I think I think you'd agree. So it sounds like, because it goes my way too, where where you have trouble submitting, I have trouble kind of in my role as well, maybe getting too heady or too controlling, and I have trouble because I'm called to lay myself down too in our relationship, So I think the best part of marriage for us is the marriage itself and the fruits that come from it with our relationship. But I think also the hardest part is laying down our lives, and laying down ourselves and our selfish like ambition and desires, what we kind of want to be in our marriage. That's been definitely hard.
Yeah.
That kind of drives some of our fights too, where I think of how can you not see it my way instead of listening to you and being open to what you have to say and really learning from you too, and changing my perspective because of you.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And then best parts, I don't know. I feel like there's so much good stuff. I mean, seeing, like what you said earlier, Virginia, like seeing your husband become a father is like the best thing in the world. And it's almost like you see them achieving this potential that you've always seen in them, which is really, it's a huge blessing. But even more than that, just always having your person and always like growing with them and changing with them, and no matter where you go. I remember when Jess and I were dating, I don't even know if I've ever told you this story, but when Jess and I were dating, my best friend and I, we went out to eat, and she was talking to me and was asking me about him and stuff, and she said something like, like, do you love him or whatever. I think we had been together for like a couple months. And I was like, I had been in love with him for like 6 months at this point, and we'd only been together for 2. But I just remember being like, I would follow him anywhere. I would go anywhere he went. And I think that's still so true. Like, I would follow him anywhere. I would go wherever he is. As long as he's there, I'm good. So.
Ditto.
Thank you.
I'll start with the worst, so I
okay.
can bring it home with the best. All right.
Hey.
Like, all right.
What are you trying to do here, fellas?
All right.
I think, touching on things we've already spoken about, I think the hardest part of marriage is just realizing how much you have to die to yourself, right? And that's the same thing with our relationship with Christ. And I think that's a big part of why he put the relationship there, is to teach us how to relate to himself as well. And just how much selflessness we need to learn, how much sacrifice that we need to employ, and how much of that is not there when you start out, and how much selfishness is so deeply rooted in you. And I just, I wanted to have a wife and a family, and also just be lazy and like everything be easy and just be able to relax all the time and not have to work hard, so why couldn't I just do it? But like, and so you learn these things about yourself that you learn quickly in marriage, that you're just such a bad sinner in so many different areas that you didn't really even see before. But also, being married to someone helps you be sanctified in those areas a lot quicker than you might otherwise be. And I think that goes into what I think the best thing about marriage has been, is just watching each other grow so much. We got married young, right? So we grew up a lot in our marriage, and we changed a lot in our marriage. But no matter when, that step happens for you, you're going to change a lot, and you're going to grow a lot from having that relationship. And I think there's, the general stigma of marriage and relationships can be that, like, you see the other person change for the worse a lot of the times, and you want them to be different, and you want them to change to suit your needs and stuff like that. But in a healthy marriage, in a gospel-centered and Christ-centered marriage, you are going to change a lot, and it is going to be for the better. It's going to be refining, and it's going to be difficult, but I know that we've each seen each other, change so much for the better and become more Christ-like, and in doing so, we've become easier to, be around and relate to one another, and to we've become, better at it, and it's become, marriage has become more enjoyable than it was even at first when it was new and exciting and fresh and everything, So I think that's the coolest thing.
Yeah, and I think just like practically speaking, is that even the right word? The hardest circumstantially for us was year 4 was like our hardest year of marriage, because we do better when we're together more than when we're apart, and when we're apart we fight more for some reason. And so when we moved here and Philip started working, he was gone, kind of like what you were saying, like 7 to 7 every day. And so I had the kids. Well, first it was just Ella, and then all day, and I would a lot of times, give them their bath, and they would go to bed right after Philip got home. So whenever Philip would try to do anything that threw off our routine, I was like, no, this is the way we do things. You don't know because you're not around. And that was a hard year, but it was a good year too, because I feel like we had to grow and learn in that way. I guess it was a couple years, not even 1 year, but that you were working, you just had a long commute. He had to drive like an hour there, an hour back. But we, finally got in a rhythm where we weren't, we learned to relate to each other in that way. And I had to learn to give him grace and not be mad at him for being gone all day and, providing for us and all that stuff. But it's been really cool too, because I feel like once we got in the swing of things with that and really learned how to let the Lord teach us how to live in that way, COVID happened and Philip's been working from home for almost a year. So that's been awesome. That's been a really great part of marriage. I think that's probably one of my favorite parts of our marriage, is that he's always like allowed us the majority of our marriage to be together a lot. Like we worked together for a couple of years, and then went to get your master's, and we're together a lot, and then now you're at home all the time. And I don't know that that's going to be forever. It may not be, but I'm thankful for that time. And also I just remember when we first got married, one of the best feelings, like when we were in college and we'd be hanging out and then have to go to our different places at night. It's like, oh, this is the worst. I can't wait till we're married, and basically have sleepovers every night. Stop winking. That was like the coolest thing ever when we first got married, and we were like, oh, we don't have to go home. We're together all the time now. And so marriage is fun. It's good. It's hard, but it's also really great. And I'm really sad that there won't be marriages in heaven. That makes me really sad.
Oh gosh,
bring it down.
I did cry. I
Don't
cried
get
one
existential.
time about it. I did. I cried one time about it.
Yeah, she did too.
Yeah.
Well,
but it'll be better.
I'm sure it'll be fine.
It'll be all right. It'll be okay.
And I guess like to kind of wrap up what you said was, the best part, or what you said, Phil, too, I think what all of us said, the best part of marriage is watching each other grow. And the cool thing about having Jesus as our foundation is like we will just keep growing and growing. And 55 years later, we're in a higher spot than we were now, with some room left to grow. So, that's a pretty cool part to watch.
Yep. All right. Well,
we did it.
This was
great job, Jesse.
This is
Yeah,
our
too, Phil.
Probably
longest podcast ever.
best podcast ever, right?
Yeah.
Definitely.
Well, that's it. If you have questions or comments or what else? Topic ideas?
Or if you want to hire these two to speak at some engagement.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
They're a team.
Yeah.
They don't separate. It's just the two of them or nothing.
They're a package deal.
Yeah, that's what I was looking for, package deal.
Yeah.
Anyway, email us at genuinelovepodcast@gmail.com.
All right.
And that's it.
We'll
See you next week.